for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. Ridiculing the target and going into unusually graphic detail about the operation, US President Donald Trump triumphantly announces the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the extremist Islamic State leader, during a covert US military raid inside Syria. Taking it to the next level, dissatisfied with earlier attempts to kill or trap African swine fever-infected wild boars along the inter-Korean border, South Korean authorities will start construction of a massive fence to try and keep them out. Plus, get out and get out ASAP. Over 180,000 California residents have been ordered to evacuate their homes as wildfires continue to spread throughout the US state. The inferno is being fanned by powerful winds and dry conditions on the ground. Our top story this morning, US President Donald Trump has announced that the fugitive leader of the Islamic State group is dead, killing himself and 3 of his children during a US-led military operation in Syria. Our Isung Jae has more on the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, a major foreign policy victory for President Trump as he faces criticism for his decision to withdraw US troops from northern Syria and fights an impeachment inquiry launched by the Democrats back at home.
Speaking at the White House on Sunday in a televised address to the nation, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that a U.S.-led attack in Syria prompted to the world's most wanted man, Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, to detonate his suicide vest after fleeing into a tunnel, ultimately killing himself.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. The United States has been searching for Baghdadi for many years. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way.
President Trump added that U.S. Special Forces suffered no losses during the raid, and he thanked Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq for their support. Following the announcement, French President Emmanuel Macron said al-Baghdadi's death is a hard blow for the Islamic State, but just a stage in the fight against the terror group. He added that the fight is France's top priority in the Middle East. Al-Baghdadi has long been regarded as the world's most wanted man, with a $25 million bounty on his head, and he has been pursued by the U.S. and its allies since the rise of the terrorist group some 5 years ago. At its peak, the Islamic State, under his leadership, controlled 88,000 square kilometers of territory, stretching from western Syria to eastern Iraq. The following day, al-Baghdadi's right-hand man and ISIS spokesman, Abu al-Hassan al-Muhajir, was also killed in a joint raid between Kurdish-led and U.S. forces in northern Syria. Kurdish officials said the raid was a continuation of the previous operation that took out al-Baghdadi. While the deaths of the top 2 ISIS leaders deals a significant blow to the terrorist group, security experts believe the extremist organization remains a global threat. Isung Jae, Arirang News.
Now, we are learning that the United States reportedly conducted a mission over the East Sea last week, flying 2 of its B-52 strategic bombers. While experts say the mission might have been a warning to North Korea, there is also speculation it could have been aimed at keeping China and Russia in line as well. Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
2 American B-52 strategic bombers flew over the East Sea last week, conducting a mission which looked like a warning to North Korea, following the regime's latest barrage of hostile rhetoric toward Washington. According to aviation tracker Aircraft Spots, 2 B-52H bombers, which took off from a U.S. airbase in Guam, conducted a mission in the East Sea and possibly the South China Sea last Friday. It added 3 aerial tankers supported the mission. While the planes have not been spotted near the Korean peninsula lately as the North has been engaged in denuclearization talks, the latest flight comes as the regime test-fired a new submarine-launched ballistic missile in early October. The North has also blamed Washington for failing to come up with a renewed proposal following the breakdown of the recent working-level talks in Stockholm. Pundits say the mission could also be a warning to China and Russia as their aircraft entered South Korea's air defense identification zone in July, and warplanes from Moscow even intruded earlier this month. The B-52 is a representative strategic asset of the U.S., along with intercontinental ballistic missiles and ballistic missile submarines. It's a long-distance bomber capable of carrying 31-ton bombs on runs of almost 6,500 kilometers. Kim Yo-san, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea has issued another warning to the United States, this time saying Washington would be seriously mistaken to ignore the regime's year-end deadline to break the deadlock in their denuclearization talks. The regime also cautioned the U.S. not to exploit the friendship between President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un to slow down the process. Kan Hyung-woo reports.
North Korea is pressuring the U.S. to come up with a different approach in denuclearization talks by the end of the year, threatening serious consequences if it fails to do so. In a statement released Sunday on the North's state-run Korean Central News Agency, the vice chairman of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party, Kim Yong-chol, said the U.S. would be seriously mistaken to ignore the year-end deadline. He also warned the U.S. against delaying tactics that capitalize on the close relationship between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. Kim Yong-chol did credit their personal ties for keeping Pyongyang-Washington relations from completely falling apart due to what he called hostile acts and wrong habitual practices on the part of the U.S. But he said the two leaders' personal rapport can only accomplish so much, saying no substantial progress has been made otherwise in North Korea-U.S. relations, and, quote, an exchange of fire could happen at any moment. Kim also criticized Washington's call on North Korea to come up with a new proposal for final, fully verified denuclearization during last month's UN General Assembly meeting. He said the U.S. is now reverting back to a hostile policy towards North Korea, and it's misjudging the patience and tolerance of the regime. Kim Yong-chol was the regime's former point man in nuclear talks with the U.S., but he was replaced by Chang Geum-chol after the breakdown of the Hanoi summit in February. Kan Hyung-woo, Arirang News.
The senior leadership of China's Communist Party is holding a four-day meeting starting today, which could lead to major changes in the party's top positions. More than 300 party members, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, will attend the first plenary session in some 20 months, the longest gap between sessions since 1977. President Xi is expected to use the session to strengthen governance and Communist Party rule. It comes at a time when President Xi is facing rising challenges from the US-China trade disputes and the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. It is possible Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, will resign shortly after the session in order to help the pro-establishment camp regain trust from their supporters ahead of local council elections in Hong Kong on November 24th. Five days of national emergency drills known as the Safe Korea exercise kicked off today. The Ministry of Public Safety and Security says the drills will focus on evacuations in multi-purpose facilities such as markets and hospitals, taking lessons from a recent deadly fire in a nursing home in Gimpo. More than 700 institutions will take part, with over 1,100 drills planned. South Korea will also stage a nationwide earthquake drill on Wednesday, which daycare centers, schools, government offices and public institutions are obligated to take part in. Now, ever since African swine fever was detected in wild boars near the border with North Korea, South Korean quarantine officials have been busy hunting them down, deploying armed soldiers to try and kill them, and installing traps in areas they frequent. But as the officials confirmed 2 new cases just last week. They have now decided to take their response to the next level. Won Jong-hwan with the details.
South Korea will set up fences from the east to the west of the country in a bid to stop wild boars spreading African swine fever in the south. Quarantine authorities decided Sunday to build these structures that will stretch from the western border city of Paju to Gosong on the east coast after wild boars infected with African swine fever were found near the border. The 200-kilometer-long fence will be constructed in 4 different regions, including Paju and Cheoron. The officials plan to first set up fences in 3 regions near the outbreak zones before mid-November, and then extending them to the eastern side as soon as the first phase is finished. From Monday, authorities will also expand the areas where the hunting of wild boars is permitted as part of broader measures to prevent the further spread of the disease. No additional African swine fever infections have been reported at local commercial pig farms since the 14th case was confirmed on October 9th. But the wild boar issue is keeping the authorities on their toes. The tighter measures were introduced in consideration of the breeding season for wild boars that's set to start from November. How the animal disease found its way into South Korea is still unclear, but there's speculation wild boars might have brought it in from North Korea, which reported its own outbreak in late May. African swine fever is not harmful to people, but it's fatal for pigs. Won Jong-hwan, Arirang News.
The portion of IT products among South Korea's exports has dropped to a 7-year low due to a decline in memory chip demand. The Korea International Trade Association says the country exported $90.7 billion worth of IT goods from January to September this year. The figure accounted for 22.3% of all exports, the lowest share since 2012. South Korea's chemical sector and heavy industries such as shipbuilding and machinery, they saw their exports increased on year. IT exports could pick up from the 4th quarter though, with industry experts expecting oversupply problems in the chip market to ease. Now, with the 2019 Asian Youth and Junior Weightlifting Championships in Pyongyang wrapping up on Sunday, the South Korean team can return home feeling very happy with themselves, with their medal haul winning 11 golds during the 9-day event. They included a new youth world record by 16-year-old Park Hae-jung with a snatch of 110 kilograms and clean and jerk of 145 kilograms for a total of 255 kgs. On the men's side, 19-year-old Hwang Sun-eun flies back to Seoul with a total of 3 gold medals hanging around his proud neck after some dazzling performances really amazed audiences in the North Korean capital. Now, it's like something out of Armageddon, really. California is continuing to burn. Wildfires ravaging the state are being whipped up further by high winds and hot, bone-dry conditions on the ground. Things are now so bad there that the governor of California has declared a statewide emergency because of the Kincade Fire that's sweeping across Sonoma County. For more on this extremely serious story and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Kim Da-mi. So Da-mi, fighting these fires really is looking like an increasingly daunting task.
Right, Mark, fierce winds sweeping across the entire state are helping the fires grow and spread even faster. And like you mentioned, California has issued new evacuation orders as a result. The order was significantly expanded overnight, covering large parts of Santa Rosa City, home to 175,000 people. According to Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, this is the largest evacuation that any of them can remember.
was quite a night for us. We have over 180,000 people under evacuation right now. Some of the evacuations that we added yesterday afternoon and through the night included the areas around Sebastopol and West County.
Even with more than 30,000 firefighting personnel pitted against the fire, only 11% of the inferno has been brought under control. The National Weather Service says a gust topped 129 kilometers an hour as of early Sunday, and those strong winds are forecast through Sunday night. Authorities are now concerned that the wind will push fires closer to other heavily populated areas. Sonoma County has been ravaged by the Kincade Fire since last Wednesday. It's turned 12,000 hectares of land into ash and destroyed almost 80 buildings and structures. But there's still no official word on how the fire started. Police in Vietnam took hair and blood samples on Sunday to identify the 39 people who died in a truck trailer in Essex, east of London. According to Reuters, fathers of missing Vietnamese individuals said local police took their samples. The fathers added they lost contact with children after they received messages saying things like they were running out of air. Police initially believed the deceased were Chinese, but now up to 25 victims are thought to have come from the same farming village in Vietnam. Chinese and Vietnamese authorities say they are working closely with British police. A long-lost painting by 13th century Italian master Cimabue that was found in an elderly French woman's kitchen has been sold for around $27 million. That's more than 4 times the pre-auction estimate. And what the French woman thought was a heritage painting was the Christ-mocked painting. Measuring just 20 by 26 centimeters, it's believed to be part of a diptych consisting of 8 small panels. The bidder is unknown, but the Paris-based auction house said a foreign museum was among the bidders. Cimabue, also known as Seni di Peppo, was a pioneering Italian primitive painter. Only about 10 known works of his have survived, and none of them are signed by the artist.
Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information we do hope will be useful for your everyday life, especially if you are a young person or a newlywed in Korea. For this first story, the South Korean government says it's going to begin receiving applications from Tuesday, tomorrow, for purchased rental housing for youths and those who recently tied the knot across 15 cities and provinces. This refers to homes that have been purchased by public housing enterprises like the Korea Land and Housing Corporation, which are then made available at much more affordable rates to the public, aiming to address housing problems facing young people. Over 3,500 homes will be made available, with the majority, nearly 3,000, allocated solely to newlyweds. Once the application process is completed in November, the government says residents can move in from December. Now, as we all know, most photos these days are digital, raising the need for safe and reliable storage in this day and age of hacking and whatnot. Our Park Se-young shares with us a number of different options you might want to take a look at for keeping and managing and keeping safe, which is most important, your digital memories.
Digital photo collections are more compact compared to boxes of photographs, but it's difficult to say which method of storage is safer. For instance, standard print photographs can still be recognized when partly damaged or stained. However, digital files can vanish even if they're partly damaged. This is why the method of digital file storage is important. There are 3 major types of digital storage: magnetic, semiconductor, and optical. Magnetic storage writes digital data as magnetic patterns on magnetic tapes or disks inside audio and video tapes, floppy disks, and hard disk drives. It was once a common form of data storage, but its use has been on decline due to the slow reading and writing speed. Semiconductor storage records data as electrons. Data is saved by sending energized electrons to the floating gate, where all data is recorded, and deleted by attracting the electrons away from the floating gate. USB flash drives, memory cards, and solid-state drives are all made of semiconductors. Semiconductor devices are commonly used due to their small size and fast speed, but data can be easily lost due to shocks or errors. In an ordinary environment, experts say the lifespan of a hard disk is approximately 5 years, while that of a solid-state drive is about 3 years. To safely store data over the long term, the best option is optical discs like DVDs and Blu-ray discs that write and read data using laser technology. If the discs are properly stored, the data can even be passed on down generations.
Because DVDs and Blu-rays can store data for about 100 years, your valuable data can be preserved for long periods of time without losing it.
As for photos and videos of important memories, experts say they should not be kept only in computers and phones, but backed up often. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. Those of us in Korea's central regions will need an umbrella handy on this first day of the work week. On and off showers are in the forecast from this afternoon, and we have 5 to 10 millimeters on tap into early Tuesday with possible thunder and lightning. For a closer look, rain will start from northern parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces starting this afternoon, gradually spreading to the rest of the central region by tonight, and dry regions will be under sunny skies for most of the day. We had a chilly start to the day, and Daegwallyeong in Gangwon-do province had sub-zero morning lows this morning, but highs will rise fast, leading to wide temperature gaps in most parts of the country. Daily highs will get up to the upper teens to low 20s by the afternoon. And there will not be any big temperature changes this week. Readings will be above season norms. In fact, temperatures will ease just in time for Halloween. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the world.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. We hope your work week is off to a wonderful start. And if you can, stay tuned to Arirang TV. I'll be back for one more newscast at noon Korea time today. So until then, goodbye.
Overseas TV Audience Survey. Arirang TV and Gallup Korea are conducting research on viewer opinions. Your honest answers will be used for the development of Arirang TV. From now to November 30th, you can participate in this survey through our website www.arirang.com. We will send a music CD to randomly chosen respondents as a token of our appreciation. We will be waiting for your participation.
Temple food is immensely popular around the world as a healthy food for the modern people. It is a vegetarian diet that is based on Buddhist doctrine which respects life. However, during Sakyamuni's time, as monks were given alms through the takbar ritual, eating meat was allowed as long as the meat had not been killed for the monks. Then when did monks begin to go on a vegetarian diet? In 1st century BC, monks observed Vasa, an annual retreat that took place during the wet season, during which monks remained in